Welcome to the Women in Industry podcast. My name is Kirsty Davies-Chinnock, and I'm delighted to introduce you to today's guest, which is Nimisha Raja. She's the founder of Nims Fruit Crisps. They are the UK's only manufacturer of air-dried fruit and vegetable crisps. Nimisha has won lots of awards. Her biggest achievement to date is winning a Queen's Award for Innovation. And her factory in the heart of Kent is producing more than 12 million packs of air-dried fruit and vegetable crisps each year. Welcome, Nimisha.
Thank you for having me, Kirsty. Good to meet you.
So you were a business owner before you started Nims Fruit Crisps, and you had several businesses. What were they?
Well, I started off with a dry cleaning shop, which turned into 5 dry cleaning shops. And then I sold a couple that weren't as profitable and then got bored because I only had 3 shops. So opened a wine bar and then became pregnant and couldn't work nights. Obviously, I was a single mother. And so sold the wine bar, but I had to replace it with something. Obviously, you can't just sell a business and be a mother. So I opened a coffee shop, which was more conducive to schools and looking after my daughter. And as it happens, it was opposite the school that my daughter ended up going to, a prep school. So it was brilliant, perfect thing for me to have done at that time. Best decision I made.
So at that point, you've got only the 3 dry cleaning shops and the coffee bar.
Mm.
And were you content at that point, or were you thinking about other businesses?
No, I that was I knew this was going to be a long haul, and I had to wait for my daughter to grow up before I could do anything else. I needed a steady income, make sure we were looked after. But no, and it was a great business, and I really enjoyed the coffee shop. Was my most favourite business, I have to say, because it was opposite the school. I knew all the parents and the children that used to come in, and in fact, that led to me starting NIMS, partly. It was, well, mainly because of that, actually.
So how do you go from having a great business that sounds like it's the heart of a local community to a dedicated production factory that produces 12 million packets of fruit and vegetable crisps a year? What's the correlation between the two?
Ignorance, uh, because
Okay.
I had no idea what I was getting myself into. It was just, oh, I came up with the idea of having crisps because the parents and children used to come into our coffee shop, and there was a constant battle between finding healthy snacks for your children. And of course, me being a mother, I had the same battle as well. And I just had this. I remember a mother trying to shove a apple into her son's hand, and the hand, I want crisps, I want crisps. And I thought, if you marry the two, maybe both would be happy. And that's where the idea came from. And it was then just, I went with it. To be honest, I've always just done that. I've seen where there's a gap in the market. I mean, I didn't know anything about dry cleaning, but I saw an empty shop and thought, oh, there's no dry cleaners around here. It's either a dry cleaners or a pharmacist. No, I wasn't naive and ignorant enough to think I could suddenly become a pharmacist overnight, but I thought I could learn about dry cleaning. This was the same thing. It was, yeah, okay, well, I'll just make crisps then. Of course, I had no idea where it was going to lead, but yeah, that's how it started. It was ignorant.
And you say ignorance, I would say that's the last word I would apply to you. Um, but did you do the trials at home? Did you hire testing companies to do it? How did you make the first batch?
Oh
And
no,
what did
it
they
was.
taste like?
Yeah, well, it was always everything was at home and for a long time. In fact, I started off in my kitchen, then I moved into the shed, and then I thought I had a real breakthrough when I set up a dedicated kitchen in my double garage at the end of the garden. I thought I'd made it now. It was wonderful, but it was evenings, weekends, doing it when my daughter's asleep or she's at a play date or a sleepover. But it took a long time. It took several years. And then the difficulty was nobody was making fruit crisps mostly you would do as a brand, you would contract it out to somebody to make it for you. And that was actually the biggest challenge was, okay, I have to find somebody to make them because obviously I can't carry on making them in my garage. And I traveled around Europe looking for factories that could do it. I did find somebody actually in Hungary, of all places. There was
All
a
right.
wonderful sort of 70-odd-year-old man who had a factory drying fruit, traditional sort of soft fruits. And he loved the idea and said, yes, I'll help you and trial it. And he did for about a year, but didn't really work. Him being in Hungary, me being here. And it was all about innovation.
That's okay. That's okay.
Sorry,
Technology is sent to try us.
sorry, that was a phone call coming through. I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, it didn't work in the long run, and so it was a case of, well, I stopped trading because I had to decide what to do. Either I go the whole hog, sell up absolutely everything I have, including our home, to invest in setting up a factory. And because it was a big decision, I stopped trading for a little while, made the decision, and went for it. Really, I had the confidence that it was a product that would work.
I mean, confidence is one thing. Um, Having done your, I don't want to say smaller trials, but having ran it from your home, and found that was successful is another thing. Selling your home and all your other streams of
Mm.
income to invest and take the plunge, is a massive decision.
Mm.
Incredibly brave to do that. At the time, were there sleepless nights, or were you 100% convinced it was going to work?
I think it's about a mindset that if I had any doubts as such or real doubts, of course in business there's always risk. I had 5 dry cleaners, 2 of them didn't work, and I shut them down. That was it. They weren't busy enough and I shut them down. So there's always that. But it wasn't about taking it. I don't think it was about taking a chance. It was just following through what I believed, and I did have 100% confidence in the product. And really, I talked to a friend of mine who was a lawyer at the time. He was a lawyer for me, did some work, and we became friends. And I mentioned to him that I'm thinking of doing it. And he said, "Oh, well, I'd like to invest if you want an investor." I said, well, that's a big risk for you to take. It's all right for me to take a risk on my own sort of
Yeah.
products and my. He said, well, it was such a wonderful thing for him to say. So, well, if anybody can do it, I know you can. And that really gave me, well, there you go. If he thinks I can do it, I'm going to do it. So I don't, I don't think I've ever sort of had sleepless nights over any commitments I've made because I think I'm just I wouldn't do it if I wasn't sure. I don't know. It's just a mindset, I think, with me more than anything else.
I think, when you're doing something as big like that, you can't doubt yourself, because if you do, that's the first step towards a downward spiral, if
Mm.
you like, by knowing 100% and believing that it's going to be successful. You're already halfway there, and halfway there to all of these awards. You've had all sorts of. I mean, I've got a list in front of me, and it goes on sort of 2 pages of all your different awards. But the big one is the Queen's Award for Innovation. I mean, that is one of the top accolades.
Mm.
Um, Tell me about that. Who presented it to you, and how did it feel, and how did your team feel when you got that?
Well, it was, I mean, when we even entered, I met somebody who works within the Queen's Award and at a function that I was at, and they said, "Oh, you should enter." I said, "Oh, no, don't be silly. I'm only a tiny little company, in Kent." And they said, "No, it's for small businesses as well." And I was thinking, no way, no way. And I entered with no hope of ever winning. And what was really dear to me was the fact that it was for innovation that I'd entered. And that's what I wanted to
Mm.
be known for, if you like, because that is our USP. What we do, everything we do is innovative, or we try to be anyway. Um, And then it was during the pandemic, believe it or not. So when it was announced was during the pandemic. So we didn't have any of
Oh,
the normal sort of celebrations or anything until a year later. And the format was very different because of it. Um, but I think when we won and I told the team, they were just absolutely delighted. It was the best thing ever. And I actually genuinely thought at first I was going to meet the Queen, not realizing that she'd stopped giving out the awards herself. I think 2-3 years.
I would have thought the same
Yes,
thing.
2-3 years prior to that. But we went to Windsor Castle, and Prince Charles was there, and I had a nice chat with him and all of that. And it was just amazing. I mean, I think just to win the Queen's Award and the fact that it was for innovation, it was the best thing. I mean, it's a beautiful award as well. I should be sitting here with it, really. It's a beautiful award.
You should have it on your shelf behind you so everybody can
It's
see
all the
it.
time.
I mean, innovation is, it should be your middle name if it isn't already. I mean, just looking at some of the data I got from Nim's Fruit Crisps, all of your products boast just one ingredient. Um, they're vegan, they're kosher. You've now launched a range of edible teas. You're doing garnishes for cocktails. You're working with other products and ingredients, and you're supplying to M&S, Pret a Manger, Zizzy, Wagamama. So it seems you're constantly innovating what it is your business does. And the high street retailers that stock you are Marks and Sparks, British Airways, Eurostar. I have tried the Apple ones from Marks and Sparks before I knew of you, and I do like them. So they're my favourite ones. But the other thing that struck me about you is your commitment to zero food waste. I mean, you've got some impressive stats on that compared to other products. So with the amount you make, your food waste for a food production facility is practically zero, isn't it?
Absolutely. It was one of the first things I sort of thought. One of the things I learned a long time ago was when you're eating fruit or vegetables, everybody peels everything and cores everything and sanitizes it almost. And yet the goodness is in the skin and in the whole of the fruit and the vegetables. And so that was really important. And it wasn't just about making a healthy snack and calling it a health. It was about making sure that when I say it's a fruit crisp, it has to be giving you and the children some nutrition. Because I remember seeing some fruit pouches that my daughter had been given by her father when she'd gone to visit him one weekend, and she came back with this pouch, and I thought, oh, that's lovely. And I read the back, and it said, oh, just fruit, 100% natural. And then I realized that it had been pasteurized, because I was looking for the nutritional information, and actually all these brands that say no nasties, what they don't say is there's actually no goodness left in them either, because you've processed the hell out of them. So it was really important to have not only just the delicious product, but also that they're healthy. And sustainability has always been at the heart of it. And I've been doing whatever. So we don't, for our own branded crisps, we don't core or peel them. M&S wanted them cored because of their customer base. So now I'm throwing away apple cores, which used to be so painful. I'm like, well, I can't do that. And then one of the girls that works here says, can I take some apple cores home? I said, what for? And she said, well, I work at a stables and the horses like them. There you go. We're going to dry apple cores and use them as pet treats. So we now also have a range of pet food. And then the other thing we used to throw away, the only thing we used to throw away was pineapple skin. Nothing else. There was no waste. And now for the last year and a half, we've been drying pineapple skin, and we're turning it into fiber powder to add to fruit bars and things like that. And by doing all these things and finding uses for all the products that we could be wasting, we're repurposing them. And when we're packing crisp, we'll filter out all the small pieces. I've been keeping them. They have a very long shelf life. Keeping them, I thought, what am I going to do with this? We've made teas out of those. We're now making ingredients out of those. So yes, the aim I had was by 2023, at the end, we would be zero waste, but we're already there now, and we're only in April. So I'm really, really proud of that. And we don't make enough of that, but we will do as time goes on. So thank you for mentioning that. It's really important to me.
I just thought it was an amazing thing. I don't have zero food waste when I eat my lunch. You know, I will always leave a bit of a corner of a sandwich or the end of a tomato. So I feel terribly guilty about that now. But it's, I think, as we look to becoming more sustainable, it has to work on both sides, not just the amount of energy you consume and how you can reduce that, but also with regards to waste. And as I say, innovation should definitely be your middle
I
name.
think consumers find it difficult anyway. And one of the reasons we've introduced ingredients is it's not just about us being sustainable. We want to help our consumers be sustainable. And that's why we've brought out a range of dried ingredients that you can have in your cupboard, so peppers and onions and watermelon. I mean, absolutely anything you can think of, you can have it dried and rehydrate it or put it straight into cooking or in your cereal or breakfast. So you're not having to buy fresh if you don't want to and waste it. So it's about also helping our consumers be more sustainable.
Which is really useful. As a consumer, we've tried a variety of the sustainable vegetable deliveries, for example. And some weeks are better than other weeks, and a week will arrive and you'll go, I've got 3 aubergines and some salad, and it's November.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to eat the salad. What can I make with aubergine? Aubergine and potato curry again, and we had that last week. And then, of course, when you do want a pepper, you
don't have it.
You either have to buy 3 or you don't have one at all. Obviously, your love of zero food waste and the fruit and vegetables itself, is that what made you take up a position with the East Malling Trust? Because you're on the board there, and that's dedicated to promoting horticultural research, is that right?
Well, yes, I got in touch with East Malling very early on after opening the factory in Sittingbourne. And that was to do with, because all the produce we use is actually class 2 as well. So it's wonky fruit and veg, if you like. I very rarely buy class 1. It's only if I absolutely have to meet an order and there's no class 2 available. And East Malling Research, during their research, do have a lot of fruit that they don't sell on or use. And so I was buying the fruit from them, and they were doing a little bit of research for me. So I'd had a bit of history with them. And they wanted to take this part of their business and make it more accessible to manufacturers, not just farmers and growers. And that's where they invited me to be involved. And and whether I add value or not, I wasn't sure about it. But I'd like to think as time goes on, that is something I will do. And we do have, lots of new ideas coming up on the sustainability side even. So, yes, that's where it came from. And I love being on the board there. It's such a wonderful trust, really lovely. And how much they help. It's a great charitable organisation.
And I think you'll be ideally placed to hopefully further their work with other innovative food and drink manufacturers in the UK as well.
That was the side that was sort of missing, the commercial side of it, if you like, and how their innovations and the research that they do can help commercially, for people like me as well. So, yeah, no, absolutely.
And I think moving forward, collaboration is always, it gives a stronger foundation, particularly when you're innovating. And I imagine a lot of the products that you've mentioned that are very successful for you, I imagine there will have been ones you've tried that didn't work, a bit like your 2 dry cleaners, and you shut them down. But that doesn't mean that with collaboration in the future, you might have an idea in the back of your head you can sort of bring back to life.
Absolutely.
So you've achieved so much already, but what's the next step for NIMS and for you, if you're allowed to tell me, if you've got anything else in the pipeline that you're looking at?
Yes, One of the biggest problems, I think, in being innovative is it's all very well coming up with new ideas, but the problem comes in l- telling people about it and making them understand. So when I first did fruit crisp, and I'd be at consumer shows and said, "Would you like to come and try a fruit crisp?" And there'd be this big question mark you could almost see over their heads. Fruit crisp, what does that mean? And it's been a real challenge, and I have so many ideas with so many new things I want to introduce. My sort of probably biggest challenge is being able to introduce all the things I want to introduce, making them successful. Because it's all very well having ideas and keep creating, but then if you're not selling because people don't like the edible teas, what's an edible tea? I mean, what on earth's that about? And that's what people say. Um, but my plan of getting somebody on board to help me, that I've done all of this on my own. There isn't anybody else that runs the business with me. And if there's any piece of advice I'd give people is try and get some help if you can, if you want to grow big quick and you've got lots of plans and you keep going on about innovation. So getting somebody on board to help me really grow. So we have a 2-3 year plan now of really making all our innovations far more commercial than they are at the moment, and build on the sustainability side of it even more. We're just starting to work with fruit buyers and exporters. So all the people who supply to supermarkets actually have to end up throwing away so much fruit and veg. And we're now working with 3 different companies to take a lot of it. And that was a phone call, in fact, coming in when I was talking to you about, are you taking the cucumbers tomorrow or not? Are they being picked up? I know that's what he wants to know, and I'll tell him in a minute. But yes, it's collaborating a lot more in terms, and really, really carry on with the sustainability side, how we can help other producers reduce their waste, including farmers, and how we can help consumers. So bringing all of that together, and really building on the sustainability side. That's the aim by innovating.
And you mentioned your daughter earlier. How does she feel about mum's business?
She's going to work again, Mom. It's a bit like that. She was a teen. She was in her late teens when I started. No, she loves it, and I have to send her. She doesn't live with me anymore. She's 23, nearly 23. So I send her boxes of crisps all the time, saying, "Mom, send me. You forget me. You're selling all these products. You can't even remember to send me a parcel once in a while." She loves it all. She doesn't want anything to do with the business, though. She's doing history of art and wants to be an auctioneer and all sorts. But
Oh,
so a whole
wow.
different ball game to working in a factory. But no, she loves it. She loves it. It's been tough for her, and you've got to imagine. I think doing something like this, it is all or nothing, and you do give your all, and things suffer. But luckily, it's all been good, and we're still friends at least.
Yes, I think my son would probably agree with her. So if we look back at you when you were, say, 15, would your 15-year-old self ever have thought you would have had all of these successful businesses, then sold them all and started your latest successful business in food production? How would 15-year-old you sort of feel about your achievements?
I
Would
think
she be proud?
even now it's hard for me to really take it in. There are times when I'm here, we work until sort of 1 o'clock at night, and sometimes I'm here and I lock the factory up and I walk through the empty factory, and it's a 10,000 square foot factory, so it's a decent size, and I'm walking through and suddenly it hits me, oh, this is mine. This is my factory. So it still doesn't always, I don't really sit still and think, but no, my 15-year-old self had no idea what she wanted, and what she wanted to do and what she wanted. Well, except she thought she wanted to be a lawyer. And I did actually. I did want to be a lawyer. And actually, I'm starting my LLB in November. So life after NIMS, if you like. I'm preparing for that. It's a 4-year course. And I'm going to be hopefully the oldest lawyer ever qualified. I don't know. We'll see.
You're the third incredible woman I've spoken to today at the beginning of this podcast series. Every single one of you either has, is, or is going to also continue their studies at the same time as their career. So I think there's something in the water
Isn't
there.
there? Yeah. It's growing and learning, isn't it? Maybe.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because I think there are an awful lot of women out there that if we can share their stories, celebrate their achievements, let their voices be heard by other people, then you're going to go on to inspire someone else to keep learning and keep developing.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for agreeing to appear. I'm going to ask you one more question and then let you run off and sort out your cucumbers. There's a sentence I never thought I would say. What advice would you give someone who has an idea but has no idea how to implement it?
I think look for help. There is a lot of help around, a lot of advisory services, and I work with one of them here in Kent, and I'm a mentor for a girl who's got an incredibly amazing product, asking for help. And I think the best thing is to just start. You must have some idea of what to do. And the most important thing to remember is never regret your mistakes. You know, you will make a mistake when you're starting, you will make a decision which is the wrong one. But looking back at it, you have to remember that that was the decision that was right for you to make then, and that's why you made it. And so never to have those regrets. But there are lots of organizations, you know, that are funded for any startup. And if anybody wants any help, they can contact me and I'll put them in touch with the right people, no problem at any time. And they can always come and ask a question as well. So I'm always happy to help because I know it's tough out there.
It is tough out there, but hopefully by us all sticking together as women in industry, we can give each other a leg up and cheer each other on along the way.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you.
And I am going to have to now order some of your edible teas just to try them.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kirsty. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.